Hi, I'm Ken Lammers. Welcome to Minor League Matters. And today we're going to talk about the new logos and names that minor league teams have adopted this year. So let's get cracking. Okay, so every year there's a few minor league teams that change their names. Sometimes it's an update, but more likely, recently, it's been a purposefully insulting bad name, bad logo that's meant to shock the community, draw news attention, and get people to buy some of the the new stuff, the uniforms, hats, baseballs, whatever, that have got the logo on it. And sometimes these just outlandish, stupid, obnoxious nicknames become something that some people really, buy into. The Biscuits in Montgomery, the Chihuahuas, which is a AAA team from out west. These sort of things can be bought into. And other times, it doesn't work so hot. There are a bunch of teams out there that are kind of limping along with these bad names they've been given. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to change. You can't change year after year after year. Usually when you change, you're stuck with them a few years. So let's talk about what this year's are. Now, I went through, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams this year that are changing their logos. And all of those, I think, except for one, are changing their name as well. The Lynchburg Hillcats just changed their logo. And I went through and rated all these as to what's the worst and what's the best on a 5-point system. First was the name, second was the color scheme, third was whether the logo will be identifiable on the uniform or on a hat if you walk up to somebody wearing it. Fourth is whether it's attractive, and fifth is whether the logo will identify with the name, right? On each one of these, gave up to 10 points and averaged them out for a score. Today, we're going to talk about how those scores averaged out. The bottom of the pack, the absolute worst, was the New Orleans Baby Cakes. They were the Zephyrs last year. That was a name that they had when they moved to New Orleans, and they held on to it for a while, and then they got rid of it this last year. Baby Cakes is supposedly about a type of cake that's there for Mardi Gras and all sorts of things like that. And so it theoretically has some background in the area, right? And they always try to make it seem like these things have some background in the area. However, if you look at it, it's a terrible, it's a bad name because everybody around the country outside of the area looks at it and goes, huh? Okay, it is a terrible color scheme. I've not seen a color scheme this bad in a while. It's kind of like a dark brown with a dark blue that fades into it, right? And then some on the thing the baby's springing out of, they have like some lighter blue and green on it. It's terrible, and it's going to be a just bad color scheme if they try to put any kind of uniform with color together other than just white for home, gray for away. The identifiability of the item, the logo on the uniform is just going to be terrible. It's this baby face with a crown on top of it coming out of something which I assume I should say is some sort of gift wrapping. You can't really tell. It's very poorly drawn. It's very poorly done. And it's just not going to show. And if you get a hat with it, unless you're actually in New Orleans and there's no other real option, I don't know that you're going to be able to tell what that is on a hat from any kind of distance other than like 3 feet away. And then if you have to be clued in to know what it is then. Is it attractive? No. It is god-awful ugly. And again, this is all shock value stuff. It's meant to be god-awful ugly. But some things are ugly and still kind of make a good impression. I like the Kannapolis Intimidators hat, right? The K, that's got like the baseball mitt and the fangs and everything. It's ugly, but it's cool ugly, right? This isn't cool ugly. This is just bad. It's a poorly done logo, really poorly done. And will it be identifiable with a name? You know, a baby with a bat in its hand, a crown on its head, in some little, package underneath or whatever. I don't know that anybody's going to identify that unless they're told what it is. So I think this is just a very bad call on the part of New Orleans. And, like I said, they'll be stuck with it for several years. Hopefully, when they get enough money and enough distance that they don't feel like they lose face, they'll change to something more appropriate. Now, number 2, second from the bottom, was the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. This is, I don't really know where Binghamton is, or, it's not a place I've been to. But apparently it's a place with a lot of, carousels. And the symbol they chose is theoretically a horse on a carousel, right? It looks like a horse with some medieval armor on its face and a spear shoved through the middle of it, right? It's bad. The primary logo is just really bad. Now they've got a secondary logo where there's a horse standing there with 2 boxing gloves on. I guess that's a little bit cuter, but it's still not great. And it's, as you look at this one, it's not a good color. Well, the color scheme actually in this one was actually pretty decent. It was kind of a red, blue, white thing. It's just the logo is really bad. And the Rumble Ponies thing, again, is one of those things that, theoretically, they'll tell you it has something to do with the locality, but it's just a name they chose because they wanted to shake things up some. It's not openly insulting or anything or terribly bad, but it's just not great. Not enough to really get a good grade on it. I didn't say it, but the baby cake's got a 1.6 average. The Rumble Ponies, pretty much double that, or they have more than double that. They get a 3.8, right, on their average across the board. It's okay. It's not great. It's bad, but it's not terrible. Okay. Next up is the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Now, Jacksonville knew this. It used to be the Suns in Jacksonville, Florida, and they knew this was a bad call. And you can tell they knew it was a bad call because they didn't make any kind of fuss about it ahead of time. Oh, we've got a big announcement or anything like that. They just did it in the middle of the night, without announcing it. Just kind of, it was there, right? And matter of fact, it's one of the reasons I'm not making my Florida trip this year. I had planned on doing a trip to Florida, going through Jacksonville, and then seeing a bunch of Florida State League teams. But you can't reward that kind of stupidity. So at least one ticket was lost by Jacksonville because of this. It is the logo is a shrimp, kind of, with its arms out like this and blue splashes around it that, unless you are looking really good at a picture close up, look like it maybe some sort of kids floaters or something, or who knows. You can't really tell. It's not a great logo. The color scheme's okay. Not bad really. It's not attractive, but it's not terrible. It's just not good. They went from having a really kind of solid, good logo, good tradition, all there, and they threw it all away and put this thing in place, which, yes, will get them some new sales on hats and stuff this year, but it's just not good. It came up as a 4.0, just barely above the Rumble Ponies. Next, we jump up to exactly in the middle, 5.0, the Lynchburg Hillcats. Now, Lynchburg did the contest that they all do, where they try to say, they put up 4 or 5 names. They've already chosen a name, but they tell the local citizens, oh, well, you can choose which name, right? Now, I don't know what happened at Lynchburg, 'cause they had 4 or 5 names up, and they always leave the old name in too. And either all the folks from Lynchburg went, Lynchburg Hillcats, or else they had, just planned to stay the Hillcats all along. They went from kind of a mascot that kind of looked like a high school mascot, bright greens, bright yellows, and just really looked high schoolish. It wasn't a great mascot, but it wasn't terrible. I can see why they'd want to change it. Unfortunately for the Lynchburg Hillcats, what they changed it to is kind of this glowing blob of fluorescent green and blue that all merges into each other and looks like it's a Rorschach test or something, right? Unless you look really close, where you can see it if you look really close. This is what it is the a face of the cat facing sideways, or a cat springing outward. Kind of looks like a watercolor fluorescent painting. It's not good. The colors aren't terrible. It's not a terrible color scheme. It's not a good color scheme either. They pretty much just went from one to another, about the same level, and no real good logo change or anything, right? So they just kind of came out flat. I don't like the new logos, but I didn't really care for the old logo either, so kind of a wash. Next up is the Florida Fire Frogs. They made it to a 5.8. The Fire Frogs, there's a lot of people who think this is kind of a cool logo. It's a frog with like fire spewing out of its mouth and all around it. And kind of a red and orange color scheme. The color scheme's pretty good. I like the color scheme. I think it'll work out pretty good on uniforms, right? I suspect that the frog on the uniform is not going to stick out unless, of course, the home white uniforms, it'll stick out. It'll kind of be hard to see what it is and understand what it is. I don't think it'll be a good uniform logo. Now, beyond that is, the color scheme is good. The name is pretty good. I like the Fire Frogs name. It's not a bad name at all. And, identifiable on a hat or something that you're wearing around, yeah, kinda. I mean, if you knew what the Fire Frogs were, you'd know what it was, right? So it's okay. Next is the Lowell Spinners. Never been to Lowell. I don't know where that is particularly, but apparently they have something to do with knitting or something, or yarn making or something like that, because the whole theme seems to be yarn wrapped around a bat, right? String yarn wrapped around a bat. And it's an alligator, and the main logo is an alligator with this kind of yarn around the bat and around the alligator and all that. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Doesn't seem to be well thought out, right, and well put together. On the other hand, they, some of their other stuff they did with the logos, like some of their secondary logos is the bat with the string around it, right, with the yarn around it, the kind of thing you used to see where people pull it off the round tube to, knit or whatever. It's not bad. They also had an L, which is pretty decent for their logos and that. So they came out okay. Still, the alligator with it all didn't work as well. It's an okay logo, an okay setup, and I think it'll do okay. It's a pretty decent color scheme too. Now, above them, we kind of make the jump from 6.0 to where we're getting into the teams that have pretty substantial, good logos and good names, right? Next is going to be the Bowie Creek Astros. Now, this is kind of a no-brainer, right? The Bowie Creek Astros did what the Greenville Astros do in the rookie leagues. They just basically took the Astros name, right? Easy thing to do. Bowie Creek's only going to be there for 2 years. Then they're going to move to Fayetteville. I don't know if they'll stay Fayetteville Astros when they move there. Probably would be a good idea if they did that too, unless they can get the General's name back, which I doubt they can since Jackson's got that. But it's a good name. It's a good logo. The star with a BC on front of it, just like the H in front of the star, or in Greenville the G in front of the star for the Astros. This is not a bad symbol across all of the Astros organization, and I think it works pretty well. And it will until the Astros change their stuff, which they do every 3 or 4 years it seems like, and have a totally new way of having their uniforms. But it's a good setup. It's good, and I rated them at a 7.2. Next comes the Down East Wood Ducks. This is the second new team. Now the Bowie Creek Astros are one of the teams that moved from the California League to the Carolina League, and the second team for that is the Down East Wood Ducks. They moved from the California League to the Carolina League, and they actually have a pretty solid, good. I don't know whether they're not calling themselves Kinston, maybe because they want broader appeal. They've moved into Kinston, but the name Wood Ducks is okay. Basically, they took a mallard and they called it a wood duck, and it's a good color scheme, kind of a green with orange highlights that works pretty well. The mascot is well drawn. It's a good, like I said, mallard duck's head and everything like that. It works out pretty well. It is a well thought out, well done logo, good colors. You can identify what it is. You'll be able to identify what it is on the uniform. You'll be able to identify it on somebody wearing a Down East Wood Ducks cap, and you'll know, whoa, that's a Down East Wood Ducks cap, right? If you know anything about baseball, it'll stick. It's all good. This is probably, it's the second best of the year, and it's best that's been done by Brandos, which is the team that does most of the shocking changes. They did a really solid job here. Impressive. The best of the best, however, was done by another company, and that's the Memphis Redbirds, and they come in at 9.1. Memphis Redbirds did a revamp. They didn't change their name either. They've been the Redbirds for a while. They did a kind of marquee with a cardinal on top of it, and that sort of thing, where for music, indicating music and all that. Their secondary logos include a cardinal that's standing there getting ready to pitch, and it's done well. It's done really well. It's a classy redo of the logo. This is a confidence thing, right? The Memphis Redbirds didn't really need to redo their logo, and they're not looking to shock their fans and make their fans go, oh my God, and get all sorts of publicity in that. They're confident in what they have, and that's what's obvious here. They're confident in what they have, and they're just updating so that their stuff is a little bit better, so that they can better serve, their uniforms, their fans, and everything. It's a really classy, really good update. And as such, it came out as a 9.1, the best of all the changes in the minor leagues, affiliated minor leagues logos and names and everything. So that's what you're going to be seeing this year around the country, the new names, the new logos. And if you have any comments about any of all this, do that down below. Promise I'll read. Don't promise I will reply. If you like it, hit the like button. If you really like everything you're seeing around here, hit the subscribe button. And until the next time, go watch some minor league sports.